So let me introduce myself first. I began practicing Falun Gong since I was 22 years old, 1993, and I I built my basic moral compass in practicing Falun Gong, and about let me think about 6 years in Falun Gong to till 1999, and Chinese Communist Party began stamping down Falun Gong, and I found myself in the front line of resisting their very violent cramping down. So I helped Western journalists to interview people persecuted by CCP, and I found a encrypted communication tool, encryption communication tool to establish the communication channel between journalists and us, and between the fellow practitioners inside China and abroad China. So I was on the top of the most wanted list in China since 2000 to 2002. And finally, I was caught with my wife, my ex-wife, in 2002, August. And I spent nearly 10 years in China's prison. And I went to the States in 2013 until now. And after I went abroad, I found that the practice of Falun Gong is really bad. And they were full of controlling and threatening and such kind of thing, and manipulation in the whole practice. And since 2017, I heard of the darkness inside Shen Yun, and in the January of 2021, two Shen Yun uh, dancers, former dancers, Sun Zan, Cheng Qingling, Jeff Sun, and Ashley Cheng came to me and tell their stories to me, and I decide to expose all of those things until now. We met together. That is my story. And how about you?
Yeah, thanks for having me. First of all, I would like to say that it's incredible that you spent 10 years in Chinese prison. If the US prison system is obviously no fun, to say the least, but I can't imagine what it's like to be in China, and imprisoned, what kind of situation that is. Um, and also, I think it's very interesting that you were previously on the Chinese Most Wanted, and now you're in the FLG Most Wanted. So you're always on the Most Wanted, which is really interesting. So me, I was not born into the practice. I'm in my mid 20s now, but my mom picked up the practice. Only my mom, not my dad. She picked it up in about '03. So I was about a couple years old at that point. Um, how she heard of it. So the reason why I'm talking about her and not myself is because she still plays a very important role in my relationship with FLG today. And to be honest, with Shenyun, I'll call it SY. Um,
You call
so
what? Excuse me.
I'll call it SY. Shenyun, I'll call it SY.
X Live, right? X Live.
No, SSY.
S Y. Okay.
SY.
S
It's a
Y.
little bit
S
quicker.
Y.
Yeah,
S Y. Okay.
I just generally I tend to call it the short version. It's a little easier to say. Um, but my mom has had a very big impact, obviously. So she was brought into the practice by I think a local practitioner who she met. She used to do this thing called WMA, if you know what that is. Um,
Excuse me.
it's WMA. It's like it's kind of a pyramid scheme in a way. It has a really bad reputation, but it's basically like you sell I don't know if you call it a program, but you sell to other people and they sell to other people. So
Okay.
it's a big,
传销，
yeah, trying to sell,
传销
right. So
pyramid
it's a
uh
big pyramid scheme, right? But
Yeah,
my
previous.
mom, she was affiliated with that before, so you can imagine what kind of person she is. But she met somebody through that who introduced her to the practice, and at the time her dad was sick, so it wasn't even for her own benefit. It was for my grandfather to somehow receive a blessing, a miracle from the practice and get better. But he didn't get better. He had passed away, and she began practicing it over here in the U.S. My grandfather lives in China.
Oh, so your mother began practicing Falun Gong in United States, not in
Yeah, I should
China.
say that yeah, our family has been in the U.S. for 30 something years. We came here or my dad came here as a graduate student. So we've had
Can
um,
you speak little more slowly because I cannot catch your
oh,
words so
okay,
clear?
okay. Yeah, yeah, okay, sorry. Yeah, we've been in the US for um, more than 3 decades.
Okay.
Um, and we came as kind of not as refugee, came as a graduate student family. And so it's been a long process for us after she started practicing. It's been about 20 years since then. She's changed a lot. A couple of big things have happened. So when I was in my uh, like early teenage years. Um, I, I was already playing the violin, but it became more serious. And we had this goal. I say we because my mom claims that I had the goal myself. But we had this. We were practicing and taking violin lessons to go to the mountain. So that was the end goal. Was we wanted to participate with tours and things like that. And so we did that. I auditioned, I made it, and then I was there for 5 years. After 5 years, I decided I had enough. A lot of people around me were also leaving and were skeptical of the entire company and their motives. So for me, it was always about the money. Money issue was huge for me because we're students, we don't get paid, which is understandable. Students don't have to get paid. But it seems strange that it was 95% students and we worked so many hours, so many shows. I remember sitting on the bus for sometimes 15 to 17 hours a day. So some others have talked about that. For me, I never got like physically um, damaged from that, but it was definitely a psychological challenge. It was torture basically because we couldn't do anything except sleep, read. Um, yeah, it was not
Did
fun.
you did you hold your own passport or ID by yourself or your
Yeah, I toured only twice. So the first, well, actually, I should say, no, I don't think I held my own passport. I didn't have an ID.
you don't think what?
I didn't have my own passport on me. Um, it was handed over to the authorities, to the orchestra manager.
Okay.
Um,
Can you freely in and out the compound?
no, you can't. So a couple of things. Some people they get so used to that environment, they don't have the desire to leave. Others are completely fine with just leaving that place once a week, that place being the mountain, once a week to go to the local Walmart or things like that. It's a lot like prison because like you're stuck there and when you do leave, there's a time limit, um, and then you have no freedom. So I remember me and my friends, we would uh, have our own devices secretly, and we would access Wi-Fi freely um, when we left the mountain for our weekly trip. Um, yeah. As far as after I left, what happened? I decided to try out Middletown, and the reason is because my family had moved to an area where the school district was very competitive, and we wanted to um, make sure that I graduated on time. That was a big thing for me, so I wanted to graduate on time. And obviously, the implication for graduating on time is that having a, a Feitian high school um, experience meant I was very, very behind academically, as you can imagine. So specifically with the curriculum, they did the bare minimum. They had a lot of what I deem very unnecessary classes like Chinese, Chinese history, complete waste of time. Very little math, very little science. Um, and so I was very far behind. Then I went to Middletown to try to graduate on time, which was successful. And then I went to college and then I did graduate school, and now I am um, in the middle of this storm.
Yeah.
So that's my story.
What storm?
The storm of the SY kind of PR campaign against the New York Times and New York Times and people speaking out against SY, just this whole thing. Yeah,
So they called you a student when you were in Shenyun, right? And
yeah, I was a student.
tell me, as a student, did you attend any commercial show with Shenyun, or what is your time in everyday time
Yeah.
schedule? Did you
Well,
attend any commercial show?
did I tour like and play
Yes.
shows?
Yes.
Yes, I did. I did two tours. So compared to a lot of my peers, I did very little because I ended up leaving. For the first 3 years I was there, I didn't tour. I was in what they call the preparatory music class.
Okay.
Um, and so that was more of a normal high school education where we were we specialized in our instruments in the music class, but we also took normal classes year round because we weren't touring. And
Okay.
then the last 2 years when I did tour, I played something like 90 shows and like 110. So about 200 shows. How much did I get paid? Probably a grand total of uh, $2,000.
$2,000 for how many shows? 200 shows.
200 shows. Yeah.
200 shows, you get $2,000.
Well, what the thing is, I was a student, so what they say is, okay, the first year, you're a rookie. Um, they don't feel the need to pay you for that. Second year, kind of as an allowance, as a stipend, I got $300. And as far as did I actually receive that money and if I can access those records, I don't have access to that bank account anymore. So I honestly couldn't tell you. But even if you just consider the fact that I played 200 shows, saved however many sentient beings I saved, um, 200 shows, how many hours on tour? Because if you consider those hours as work hours, um, we took long bus rides. We had rehearsals. We had all kinds of sound checks, and don't forget, before a show we have to um, 装台. We have to set the stage
Yes.
and stuff. And
Yeah.
after we have to strike, as they say in industry terms. So that was I was talking to someone about this the other day. An average day for like an orchestral male who has to do the 装台and the strike and all that stuff is something like 17, 18 hours, something like that. You
18
know?
hours per day,
Yeah,
right?
18 hours per day. And ridiculous.
So
And
I don't think 18 hours working per day, we can call you a student. I think we can call you a worker maybe,
yeah,
right?
sure. And
Yes.
it's unheard of to work that many hours, right? But let's talk about like how that will be justified on their side. They'll say, okay, you're a student, and they might say that this is voluntary. Like you can choose to do this. No one is forcing you. But if you think about it, is that really the case? Do you really get the choice to not participate in strike or wake up early to, make sure all the cables are in line and all the things are plugged in? Do you have a choice? No, you don't. If you want to leave, like when I left, um, there was already the talk of, okay, you're going to have to pay for your tuition while you were here. Well, I was there for 5 years. Do you mean to say that I need to pay $150,000? What school does that? Have you heard of any schools in the entire world that make you pay your tuition after? You know,
Yes. Yes.
uh, after you've attended it. You received a scholarship, and so uh, that money is, yeah, it's yours essentially. Um,
When you
so
when you're setting up the stage, so-called 装台, is there any security method to protect you from being hurt?
well,
Because
to be fair, I don't think we were doing anything that was that dangerous per se. But I do wonder. So to answer your question, no, there was no security. They kind of taught you on the go, so you learn it kind of quickly. Um, and I wonder what the local labor union thought, what their theater people thought, with these little kids doing all this work. No idea what they thought, but it must have looked kind of funny to them that most companies, performing arts companies, come in with their huge productions and lots of people and all older, right? Us,
yeah.
average age, not even 20 probably. So
How old were you when you 装台?
I was I turned 16 my first tour. So I was
16,
15. I started off when I was 15
15,
and then
okay,
I
15 years old.
left when I was 17. So honestly, compared to a lot of other people who have their own stories to tell, I don't have a lot to say, but I do think that I understand the operation pretty well. I even would say that I can justify their perspective. But in justifying their perspective, you have to make a decision, right? There comes a point where you have to think either this is all true and all these kids are being used for a righteous, sacred purpose, or this is all false and it's very highly illegal.
Yes,
So there's no other thing. And to continue on that idea, either Lee is the creator, or he's a terrible, terrible criminal, and thousands of people in China are being persecuted like you and are dying for him. That's
yes,
the situation. So
yes,
it's no joke.
yes, yes, you're right. And tell me, uh, when you 装台, is there any younger boy or girls doing this job?
I mean, I was 15. They were probably like 14-year-olds, maybe even 13-year-olds.
13 years,
But yeah, I mean, the youngest person I know who has toured was maybe 12.
12 years old. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Could you please
yeah,
tell me? Yes, please go on.
but later on, they stopped having the super young kids, and they even stopped admitting super young children to the school. I guess because they couldn't really do anything. It was maybe a little early for them to tour, and they had a lot of living like lifestyle issues.
Are they a U.S. citizen or other countries' citizen? What
Some
is
people,
the visa status are they have?
they're probably on student visas. I'm assuming they're on F1 student visas.
F1 students visas to United States, yet
Yes,
they attend the tour on Europe maybe.
yes, absolutely.
So they have the F1 visa, but they attended the tour to Europe. But the
Right,
tour at the same time, the tour is a commercial tour, right?
right, exactly. So I wonder if the SY office has meticulously um, arranged people in orchestras or in companies based on what their visa status. I don't know if that's the case, um, but I can speak from personal experience when I did tour and we went overseas. Plenty of people in my group were from Taiwan. And so a
Taiwan.
large number of, yeah, not a lot of people from China or Hong Kong, a lot of people from Taiwan.
Okay.
Um, and I'm assuming they're all on student visas. And they toured commercially. So
How about other countries? For example, German, Europe, UK, and New Zealand and Australia.
yeah, I had a couple of very close acquaintances from Australia. Um, they also toured with us. In fact, one of the people mentioned in the article was my good buddy who was Australian.
Okay. Do you know
Um,
Zhang Ruyi? Zhang Ruyi, a
Zhang,
female violinist. Zhang Ruyi.
yes, yes, isn't her name Catherine?
Tell me again, please.
Catherine.
Catherine. Yes, exactly. Catherine Zhang. Yes.
I think I know her. We may have, overlapped during my time there, but I don't remember if I've actually talked to her and if she knows who I am.
Catherine Zhang Ruyi.
What
Yeah.
about her?
She is the first, her mother is the first person coming to me to tell the story of Inside Shenyun. But after she noticed that I exposed all of these kind of things, and she turned to be on the other side and scolding me to 破坏法, destroying 法, you know.
Interesting. If you think about it, destroying Fa shouldn't be a concept because you can't destroy the Fa. So if the Fa uh, is foolproof, if it's
Yes,
perfect, if it's
yes,
already complete, as they say, then
yes,
all these accusations we're making are just it's farce. It's a mockery of the Fa, and it can't do anything, right? But if
yes.
they are scared, then they're probably very scared. So it's again, there's no in between here. Um, I'm wondering, what kind of stuff did her mom tell you?
Her daughter, Zhang Ruyi, Catherine
Right,
Zhang,
right.
has
Yeah,
been,
but the when you were talking to the mom about what kind of stuff was exposed, I guess from the daughter. Yeah, that's right.
has been bullied very severely,
Oh
and
wow,
just
okay.
like in prison. And they use 包夹. Do you know what is 包夹?
I can imagine. Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Couple
two
of people.
couple people, two fellow students to put her daughter under surveillance all the time. Her daughter cannot behave anything independently, must be under surveillance, 被押送 to anywhere, you know,
Right,
and
right. It's very
being
funny.
being humiliated so many times in
Right,
public.
right, right,
Yes,
right.
and being
That.
search her
Mhm,
body publicly, and
mhm.
her personal properties will be disclosed publicly and being thrown away all around.
Right.
It's
But
very.
it's all part of cultivation, right? It's all a Xing test, right?
I would say go fuck themselves. I don't call it cultivation. It
See,
is
but
not.
that's the thing. You and I don't see it as cultivation because we understand that they're using the idea of cultivation and your moral ethics, the moral ethics that you originally signed up for, they're using it against you, and you can't say anything. If you say anything, it's your fault. You're the issue.
Yeah.
Um, and people practitioners who think that what people who are exposing SY are doing, they seem to think that that's something not to do. Um, and I find it a little bit, silly. I talked with a couple of people. Uh, I guess you could say they weren't from the media. But personally, I don't have a lot of things I could offer that seem highly illegal. I do have my personal experience of performing tour while being, a student and having to do so many hours on the road during show days. Um, when you describe like Catherine's bullying, that never happened on my side.
Yes.
Um, the only thing that happened to me where it felt kind of like weirdly Chinese, weirdly communist, was I had talked to my my fellow, orchestra guys, and I was kind of telling them, hey, everything feels really weird about this place, about tour, and then someone told on me, and then that was how they understood me to be somewhat like a dangerous figure. But the person who told on me isn't even at the mountain anymore. He's long gone. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know if he's still a practitioner. But yeah, I guess like part of today is I'm really curious um what you think of everything. So you mentioned that they should go fuck themselves and what they're doing is illegal. That seems to be clear. But when it comes to like the moral ethics of the practice, do you still agree with the moral ethics?
Um, till now, I still identify myself as a Falun Gong practitioner, and
Hmm,
the exact reason why I expose all of those things, because those things are directly against what I believe truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance.
Hmm.
And to my knowledge, I think what I've heard are the textbook version of human trafficking
Hmm.
and children abuse and children enslaved
Hmm.
in slavery, I mean. So I think it is my duty as a citizen or my duty of a practitioner to expose all of this kind of thing and reach out to the law enforcement
Hmm.
to inform them of these kind of things.
I see.
Yes.
Um, it's funny, do you know the phrase 依法为师?
Yes.
That's kind of the situation here. And so why do you think law enforcement and people, people who can actually do something about everything about the company, why haven't they done anything? The mountain is very careful of everything they're doing, and they're trying to have an anti or a PR campaign against what's been brought to light about them. Why, after so many years of tour, so many children being trafficked, you could say, who've had to play these shows and basically been free laborers, how come the whether it's the government, whether it's the um, nobody's noticed? How come?
Uh,
Do you
wh-
understand my question? 就是为什么官方没有对这个神韵的这个做法，不管他们的就是工作，他们的就是 employment 这方面的，还是他们的就是 trafficking 这方面的，为什么没有任何人有这个警觉？Was there
yes.
anything? Were there already ongoing investigations?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
I
so
don't.
but my question to you is why, how come if what they're doing is so problematic, how come no one realized before you and I guess a couple of other people?
I think there are two sides. One side is that the inner stories never being disclosed outside. That is
Hmm.
one story. The other story is that Falun Gong launched a very powerful campaign on the political field domain
Hmm.
and on the whole public awareness domain.
Hmm.
So they just manipulate the public opinion on them.
Hmm.
So I think these two parts is the main reason why the outside world do not notice that the crime in Falun Gong practice.
Yeah.
And in March 11th, 2024, when Shen Yun troop coming back from maybe Europe, I don't know, coming from abroad
Hmm.
and entering United States, a Custom and Border Protection officer of Department of Homeland Security asking question to Teresa Du, who is a dancer of Shen
I
Yun.
know her personally. Yeah, it's funny.
You know her personal, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Hmm.
2 days later, Falun Gong motivate their relations on the federal congressman to question Department of Homeland Security, saying that that officer is under the influence of Chinese Communist Party propaganda. That
Hmm.
is the reason why he asks maybe excessive questions to Teresa Du.
Hmm.
And you know they have a lot of relationships in the political side.
Yeah, yeah.
So no one disclosed this kind of thing. That
Hmm.
is the reason why it is very necessary for us to disclose this kind of thing,
Right.
because there are more than 600 people are now in the compound
Yes.
of the Dragon Spring, you know.
Yes. Well, here's the thing, like they're all young, so unlike a lot of other cults with compounds, these are
Yes,
all young people, all children or young
yes,
adults who
yes,
became young adults from becoming
yes,
from youth, and
yes,
it's psychological tormenting because they claim you're free to leave, but like I said, you're not free to leave.
yes,
It's not just your physical body. You can only leave the campus when um, you're on break day or you have permission. But it's also if you leave, they say all sorts of things like you're not going to be protected, you're not going to, um, all these bad things will happen to you.
Yes, yes,
That's emotional, that's manipulation, right? How is
yes.
that okay?
And threats. I would
And
call it
threats,
threats,
right?
psychological threats, right?
It's very complicated too because the practice is being persecuted. That is not a speculation, that's a fact. So it's so easy for them to say to blame others for wanting to investigate them, for wanting to understand them better. It's always about what are other people doing to us? What is the Communist Party doing to us? Never are we doing anything that arouses suspicion, because clearly we both agree that there's a lot of stuff going on that shouldn't be going on.
Could you please tell me something about your living condition? How many people live in a dorm, a room? How many people? And do you have the valid fire prevention apparatus in the house
I don't
in the
I don't know if there's like fire stuff. I don't know. I just know that there's no way what the living situation um, was legal. At one point, we lived in kind of like an army bunker. So I should say that the mountain is not a equal society. So if you're a '07 dancer, for example, you might live in a pretty decent dorm, a relatively newer dorm. But if you were a musician and you weren't on tour, they basically put you in the worst living condition. So at one point, I was living with about 20 other guys, and we were all lined up in a really long hallway. So it wasn't really a bedroom because there was no door. There was one big door, and then there was a long, long hallway with bunk beds on each side. Yeah, about 20 people lived in that area,
20
and
people living in
20
a
people.
house, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it seemed like the army to me. It seemed like the military to me. Um,
Do you have your own bed, or you have to share beds with someone else?
yeah, we had to share beds, and if you wanted to, create your own personal private space, that was kind of um, frowned upon. So if I wanted to, put up curtains to block what people could see, they would sometimes ask you to take that down. Not always, but they would sometimes ask you to remove that, and they would do checks. They would do bed inspections, which is another very militaristic thing. Um,
How old are you? How old were you there?
I
Be
was 13, 14.
13, 14.
So this is
Okay,
before I toured. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Something that,
As a U.S. citizen, as a U.S. citizen, you do not have your own ID certificate. Your ID certificate has to uh, hand over to the
well,
authority.
actually, that's a very interesting thing. So I'm a big fan of sports, and if you watch a lot of videos of athletes when they arrive at a camp for training, you'll see them hand over their documents, probably because someone has to manage them. Is it not the same situation? They're handing over their documents to be managed, to be safeguarded. Is that not what's happening?
I don't know. I just want to know the exact situation you experienced.
Right. Well, yeah. We handed over our stuff pretty much whenever we got back. Yeah, we handed our stuff, and then when we were allowed to go on our 2 week break, which is funny because we every year we get 2 weeks, which reminds you of what? Of a worker, an employee of a company who gets 2 weeks off a year. Well, we're
Yes.
students.
Yes.
So it's funny. We're sometimes students, sometimes um, uh, employees of a company,
Or maybe
sometimes
sometimes prisoner, right?
exactly, exactly. I'm glad we're on the same page here. Sometime there was one point where we were living in a two-person bedroom. It was the tiniest. I lived in New York, and my room was tiny, but this room was unimaginably small for two people. Um, the door couldn't even open all the way. That's how small the room was. And there are many of these rooms, all lined up. Uh, and yeah, I don't know how we survived that and how people didn't find that to be extremely problematic.
Who
Didn't feel
owned
like,
that building? Who owned that building?
I don't know. I imagine it's not Lee himself. It's probably a person, a random practitioner, because Lee wants to stay out of, direct responsibility.
So can you give me the address of that building? Do you remember?
No, I don't have an address. It's all part of 140 Galley Hill Road. Everything is part of 140 Galley Hill Road. I'm sure you know that.
What is the address of Shenyun, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The address. It's all part of the same place.
Okay.
Um,
In the compound, right?
yes, yeah. Uh, the mountain has had a lot of issues with the local residents. I'm sure you know that. And
Hmm.
they might say that's the local residents being infiltrated by the CCP. But I say, you have thousands of Chinese people flocking to one area. And they
Yes.
they they block themselves off, and they say they're being persecuted. But again, if you look at cults, a lot of cults have this. They have their own compound, and it's not free access to it. And if you ask AI, if you ask ChatGPT what they think, they're going to say it's a problem. They're going to say that it's human trafficking. Don't believe me. I've done all my asking of AI. Is AI infiltrated by CCP too? Who knows?
Everybody or thing against them or question them are influenced by CCP,
Sound
obviously.
it sounds like just the Communist Party. It sounds like the Communist Party if you don't
Exactly.
say the subject.
They,
So
they, they do the same thing as
the same thing.
the
My
same
my
thing.
dad my dad always says the people who are doing this, all they know is that because they came from that environment, right?
Have you heard of any suspicious death case?
Guest, like people visiting.
Death,
Oh,
DEATH. Have you heard of any suspicious death cases?
I've heard people, falling to their deaths from construction. Um, I heard before my time there was a boy who left. I don't know. I didn't know him personally, so I heard he left and he committed suicide. And then that was said, like Lee said on the in the big meeting, which reminds a lot me of North Korea. In the big meeting, he said that if you leave, you may have the same fate as that boy. So isn't that extremely I cannot believe these kids listen to that and actually take him seriously. That's yeah,
That boy,
unbelievable.
that boy's name's Edward Zheng.
Right, Edward. Yeah, right,
Edward Zheng, he committed suicide in 2012.
right.
Yes.
So his death was, used against these children. Unbelievable. But I did hear of a case of a woman. I knew her personally. We toured together. She was married to a fellow musician. She got sick. She had, I think, MS. She had the back issue. Her spinal cord was, I guess, compromised. She got sick during lockdown, and she had no, access to care because she thought she could just 发证念, or she could, I don't know,
Yes. That
and she died.
really. What is her name?
Stephanie.
Stephanie what?
Stephanie Chen. I think Chen.
Chen. Is she
Um,
US citizen?
no,
No.
as far as
Taiwan.
I know. As far as I know, she was from China. She
From
came here. She got married to her old cello teacher. So they have quite an age gap, but they are both from China. I don't know if the man, the husband, who also passed away, I don't know if he has status. The entire family passed away. Um, the older brother of the husband was also a very important figure in the orchestra. Last name
okay.
Deng.
Okay.
Yeah.
And have you heard any case of arranged marriage, forced marriage?
Uh, it's the same thing as when they say you're free to leave. Are you really free to leave? So they might suggest you marry someone. You can say I don't want to, but everyone will be like, oh, I need to be a good practitioner. I need to not care about my own, uh, whether it's my attachment or my own wishes. I'm just going to marry. especially the girls, that's what happens to a lot of them, I suspect. But the person who does a lot of that matchmaking is Lee's wife. Um, so that's what I've heard. Again, these are not personal anecdotes, so whatever I say, you can just take it with a grain of salt, so to speak. You don't have to take it seriously, but yeah, if you have been at the mountain, you have heard of these things. There are cases of weird deaths. There are cases of arranged or strongly encouraged marriages. Um, there are lots of people on student visas who are doing this kind of um, commercial touring and
Yeah.
oh, I don't know. It's all very strange.
Yeah.
I left that environment many years ago, but I still find it such a fascinating thing. I saw the videos of on Twitter, on X, of the cafeteria of Lee, all the weird architecture. It's incredible that more people don't know about this.
Yes.
To all the people who are campaigning against New York Times, campaigning against what you are doing, what Xiaoming, what you guys are doing, it's as simple as if you are practitioners, and there's nothing wrong with what you're doing, then you can just
I don't understand. Tell me again in Chinese.
就是如果你就是作为法轮功这一边，如果你是真的没有任何你做的事情没有任何可疑的或者是违法的，那
Yes.
何必你这
Yes.
么你
Yes.
说就中共？Well, it doesn't matter if what you're doing is fine, then
Yes.
it makes everybody look silly. But
Yes.
if you're nervous，如果你慌了的话，
Yes.
那不更就是可疑吗？Right?
Yes.
So we'll see. We'll see. Like you seem to think that everything will be decided soon. I actually have a question for you. I heard that Bill Gwen, the Epic Times former Epic Times CFO, I heard he was released. Do you know about his situation right now?
No, he's not released. We cannot
Oh,
bail out. 他是这个
released on bail. Right, right. That's what I
released
meant.
on bail. Released on bail.
Well, once he's released on bail, can he still be charged?
Yes, he is still facing those charges
I see.
from SDNY,
Mm,
South
mm,
District South District New York Court.
right.
Yeah,
I should say it's
yes.
SDNY CCP. SDNY CCP. You have to add CCP to everything.
What do you mean? I don't understand. SDNY CCP. What does it mean?
That means CCP also infiltrated the New York court, infiltrated everything.
Maybe
Uh,
you can tell this story to Damian Williams. Do you know Damian Williams?
it sounds familiar. Is he the guy that appears at the FLA conference?
Damian Williams is the prosecutor of the
Oh, okay. I think
SNY
you're.
office.
I see. I see. That's funny.
He
That's funny.
he charged Guo Wengui, Miles Guo,
Mm,
and I think Li Hongzhi will be the next one. You
wow.
know,
Wow.
our Chinese doesn't do something good in United States.
Right. 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 Um. Wow. Yeah.
And how about your mom's opinions on
Oh,
me?
right. We haven't talked about it at all. So my mom, she's very similar to Ashley Chung's mom. Was kind of
Really?
like yeah. She's I listened to Ashley's the audio clip um of her mom persuading her um to not speak with you, to persuading
Yeah.
her to kind of just stay out of it. My mom goes a little bit further. My mom is a very her personality is a very stubborn and superstitious. So she really believes like if I don't stand on the right side, something bad will happen to me. She strongly believes that. So for her, like me leaving was already a huge thing, and but she was able to justify that, justify, and she told herself, she convinced herself that it was all Lee's plan for me, even though for a long time, I told her I didn't want to be there, and yet she'll apply the psychological pressure on me, and she'll make me so frustrated, and I just want her to shut up, so to speak, right? Obviously, I don't want to say that to her, but that's the effect. I want her to not talk about the stuff anymore. And so I will say, like, I'm still a practitioner. I'm not. I'm not a practitioner, but in order to appease her and get her to not speak about this, I'll tell her that I am, just to maintain the peace. And so she'll use these words against me. She'll say, "Look, you said you were a practitioner, or you said you wanted to go back. Really? Like, did I actually say that?" Um,
Do you
she
know
doesn't
do you know how silence her?
how to what's it
Silence your
called?
mother.
Restraining, file a
Restrict.
restraining order.
Yes. How
You
to
know,
restrict your mother's manipulation on you? Have you considered some method to do
the
so?
the thing is, I can block her contact method. I don't live at home anymore. I can block her contact method. But this is something that, I haven't heard anyone talk about is what is the effect of FLG on families? So from personal experience, like unfortunately, you've had to divorce, right? And that's all because of you can say that you left the practice, right? And so for my family, my dad's not a practitioner. He completely understands me. He's actually very open-minded. He says, if you want to go back to the mountain, as long as you can make a living, like that's all I care about. And um, I'm very grateful that he is able to be reasonable with my mom. But if I completely cut my mom off, what is going to happen to him? How is he going to be able to deal with that psychological pressure? All of
Yeah.
it will be placed on him, and she will blame him for all of these things. And you cannot imagine what that is like.
Maybe you can learn Ashley Cheng.
What does
What
he
you
do?
need is one recorder for you and one recorder for your father.
Hmm,
Record everything your mother
hmm,
says and put it online.
right.
She will be silent.
And that's the thing is like that's what I want to do. And even by speaking to you, I want the message to be clear to her that I don't want anything to do with her lifestyle and how she views the world because my mom's not a practitioner because she believes in the moral ethics, Jinshan. She's a practitioner because she thinks that her life was saved because I wanted to practice. I wanted to practice. But how old was I when she started practicing? 3. So she's saying that I brought her into Falun Gong. Did I? I was 3 years old.
I
Isn't that
don't
a
think
bit
I don't think your mother is a practitioner. I think myself as a practitioner. I
interesting?
think your mother is a manipulator
Hmm,
to her own little son
right.
to to eat her own son,
Yeah,
to not to nourish her own very 匮乏的 soul. He is
right,
children eater. I call
right,
your mother children eater.
right, right, right.
What she need is a recorder. What you need is a recorder to record everything she said and put it
It's
online.
unbelievable. Yeah,
Before that, please check your local law to
if that's
see
a
if it's legal to
right. It's
or yeah.
complicated. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, just have you heard of any practitioner say that if you leave, I'll leave too? Have you heard that? No, right?
Heard what?
So currently the situation for me is like my mom, she says, if you decide to leave the practice, I'm gonna decide to leave the practice too. So I don't understand her um, approach to cultivation at all. I don't know how she's benefiting from cultivation, but what I do know is that she believes that her responsibility is to make sure I'm a cultivator. I'm a practitioner.
So
Unfortunately, I'm a God-fearing man. I just don't believe in Lee. I don't believe Lee's the creator. I do believe there is a creator. I don't believe it's Lee.
you need to好好想一想，你妈妈并不是那么难对付。
嗯，不是他难对付，是我如果对付他，那我家人怎么样？我怎么办？就我爸怎么办？对吧？
我都已经听懂了。
是
你之所以还有这个想法，就是你还把你妈妈放在现在的这个她对你们的控制之上。
是是，
如果你爸也有一个 recorder，你也有一个 recorder，他说什么话随时说随时放，他就会沉默了，
但是
他就不
对我爸有什么好处？
他就不是在像过去长达20年的时间中被人左右，被人这样利
But
用。
what if he's forced to divorce and has to give up half of his assets?
那么也许需要追究你妈在你年轻的时候 把你送给这个 human trafficking group 的罪行了。
But that's the thing is as someone who's gone through everything, I don't implicate my mother. I don't think she did something to harm me, but the effect is harmful. Does that make sense?
你妈是一个，哎呀，我不知道我说的，I don't know if I say those things to you is appropriate。你还对你妈保有这个儿子对母亲的那个
是是，
情感，但他对你的这个长达20年或者20多年的这个行为啊，已经是证明了他对你并没有这样做。
但事实上很就是应该说很多父母，特别是当妈的，就是他如果有儿子女儿在就是修炼里面，都是这样，same thing，right？
现在我谈的不是有没有其他人这样，我只是说呀，他对你做的事情并不是爱。
No, of course, of course. 我当然这么认为。Yeah, of course. I agree that her 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 approach to being a mom is completely distorted. I don't know what kind of mom she would be if there wasn't um, the practice involved. I just know that she's a very extreme woman, and you pair that up with a very extreme ideology is a very explosive um, personality. So it's tough.
When did you know me?
I uh, I'm also friends with people who knew you, who also were mentioned in the article. Um,
What article?
New York Times article, sorry. The
Okay.
the the in that piece,
Yeah.
uh I became, I know everybody in the piece because I grew up with them, especially the musicians. I grew up with them. Um and I heard from them about you, and I used to listen to I still do. I listen to your podcast a lot right before I go to
Really?
bed. Yeah.
Okay. Thank
It's
you.
very some people think it's very 就是很激动，但是我听得很舒服，听得很就是放松，你知道吗？Very relaxing because you're doing something that maybe in a different world I would do, but I don't have the personality on this earth to do that.
I
Uh,
understand.
so it's very admirable. I do think that you're up against a very formidable opponent, even though uh Falun Gong claims to be, non-violent. Um, they claim to do Jinshan, but obviously with last time when they doxed you and they had Lana Han, which when they kind of figured out your location and things like that, it's very scary. They don't play fair, right? They're very dark. So best of luck to you too. I just really hope that justice is served, right?
Can you consider one day I can put our conversation on my episode on my channel?
You can put today. You can do it today.
Really?
Yeah, I don't mind. What I do mind is for the sake of my mom, for the sake of being a son still, just keeping my complete identity hidden. Obviously, if people know me, they know it's me. I don't know if you want to do this. I kind of think of my situation a bit like Ashley, Chungqing. No, I have a little bit more stakes personally. Not because of myself, obviously, but because of my family. So it's complicated. But uh, to be honest, like even I went to college and I went to music school, and I would always avoid telling people about my past because it's not a very proud thing that happened to me, right? 不光彩，就是我即使
Have you consider
巡回了
yes. Have you
even though I
considered
toured.
the reason why I am not afraid of mentioning my past? My past is more related to Falun Gong than you do, right?
Right.
Why don't I why am I not afraid of that?
It's a good question. I think for you, that and not to say this in a demeaning way, but you have lost time, you've lost um, resources, right? So they say like you don't have as much to lose. I'm not saying that I have more to lose than you, but somehow like you are kind of in a position where this is the logical conclusion to speak out to get to the bottom of everything. For me, I still want to live a normal life, which is why I'm not the face of the New York Times article. I'm just one person that they interviewed, right?
Let me tell you my answer. It is not, as you said, I have nothing to lose. Everyone has something to lose, you know,
Hmm.
everyone. You maybe you think my life is very simple or very limited on the material side, but I still have a lot of things to lose from my perspective. I think the reason why I am not afraid of exposing my past is that I have disclosed the precious gift from my past, and I share those gifts freely
Hmm.
to my audience.
Hmm.
And you have this similar gift too, but you didn't dig into that gift to open it. You are afraid of that. You turn your face against that. You think that is a liability. That is not an asset. But I'm telling you, that is a kind of asset. You can open the gift. It is very precious gift because not so many people experience the same thing. There is a very precious gift in that experience. Dig into that experience, find the gift, and share this gift freely to others.
I mean, it's a bit, I understand what you're saying, but it's a bit shameful. Like, if you can imagine the psychology, the psyche of someone who was previously in a cult, they exit the cult. Sometimes they share their story, and those people are very, they often become very well known. Or like if they post if they are interviewed and their story is told online, lots of people flock to it. I don't have that desire to be recognized, to be associated with the practice. Um, I want to see, um, to be honest, I want to see everything come to an end so that I can have peace at home.
I don't want to push you to do anything. I don't just want
Hmm.
to share my thought with you, just to
Yeah,
share. You said you just want to lead a normal life. No,
yeah.
it is not possible. Your current life is not a normal life.
Hmm.
It not depend on you. It depends on your experience, but you cannot change your experience. And when you say the shame, you just think about me. Why don't I feel any shame? You know, the very important reason is that the你可以从过去的经历中发现非常珍贵的东西，那些东西对你来说非常重要。You said you want everything come to an end, but I see everything just it is a very precious beginning, you know. 对你来
Hmm.
说是一个非常珍贵的开始，这并不是一个 end，这是一个开始，这是一个the beginning of the true journey inside, journey inside to see what happened before, what 过去真正发生了什么，你真正得到了什么。The reason why you feel ashamed is that you evaluate everything on 得与失. What you get, what you lose. You evaluate everything on this level. No,
Hmm.
I don't evaluate things on this level. I evaluate things that how how does my life blossom or nourish 我的生命如何成长？我觉得你也在成长之中。当你真正的在成长中，真正的分享这种成长，你不会感到 shame 的，而且别人都会感谢你，而不是 look down at you，别人都会感谢你，就像别人感谢我一样。这
It's
种
it's a bit, I some of my friends don't understand my I think from our conversation you can tell I make a lot of jokes about the practice and about SY. To me, it's just a drinking story. Like if I have close friends, I won't tell them, "Hey, this happened to me in the past." Um, And this is why, like, when I say I went to boarding school in New York, that's what I meant. No, I don't really care to explain to them who I am because of my past. But I do think it's a little bit funny and interesting that this happened to me. That's all. Like, that's why I'm not in a position like you where I'm speaking out against it. Because I am not interested in, perhaps maybe this is too early for me to say, and I'm still, like you say, I'm still growing and maturing. But to me, it is very simple. Like, let's just imagine for a second what Lee did. So Lee was, uneducated. He, um, some people say that he was involved with the government in a very local setting. Do you know about this? He was like a local like a 就是不是保安吧，就是他是一个就是我看到就是网上也 some pictures of him wearing like a uniform, right? So he has some involvement with the government, but he was not a very successful person by any means. And all of a sudden he comes out and he becomes a figure, a public figure, preaching about morality and preaching about how to basically become a god of your own. So that's his psychology, and I don't know what Lee is thinking um, when the persecution started. Like coincidentally, he left China, right? 2 years before the persecution started. Don't know if that was planned. Don't know if that was accident. He's here. Persecution's happening. It's been happening for 25 years. Um, and so many people have basically contributed their entire lives, their families to this thing. He created several companies, grossing what hundreds of millions in revenue. And that's Lee. And we know who he is now. I mean, when I went to the mountain, that's when I really had an understanding who Lee was. Not someone to fear. I went on tour with Lee. I one time I was outside during 发 because I hate 发 so boring. But we would 发 and I would escape basically the fear. And one time I ran into Lee outside and Lee was like, 不发 就回家, something like that. And I just kind of laughed, you know. At that point, I did not see him as a divine, creator figure. He was just a normal man. And I cannot imagine um, how absolutely normal my life would be without him. You know, like, sure, you say it's very treasurable, very, just, um, very special what's happened to me. To me, again, that's not my personality. Does that make sense?
Yes, I
Yeah.
understand.
So some of my friends, they want to create a story, a piece of literature based on their experience. I don't. I just want to get married, have a family, have these some of my friends from the mountain are my lifelong friends because we went through the same thing. And I want to see everyone do well, and I want to see my mom 就是what they 就是你们说托轮 I want to see that happen. Um, and has my mom understood how to be a better person? Yes. Has she become a better person? No. Does that make sense? She understands,
The last sentence, I don't understand the last sentence.
she has understood how to become a better person. 怎么
Yeah,
样做一个更好的人？但是她真正没有变成一个更好的人。That's not
yeah.
happening. To say, okay, practitioners they live by these values. Are they becoming more a better person or a more controllable person?
Okay.
Does that make sense? 就
Yes,
是我想问你，当时就是，你是从大陆过来的，那么
对。
就是 I have lots of my mom's a lot of her friends also were persecuted in China. So my question to you is, how come you weren't like them? You came here, how come you didn't become more devout, more fervent? 就更加的就是积极，为什么没有？
因为对于他们来说，这是一个成佛的机会，他们不
嗯
愿意放弃这个成佛的机会，所以这变成了一个非常功利性的事情。
like you were saying, 就是 the gains and losses, right? The assets and liabilities.
I don't know, I do not understand your English.
You're saying it's the same thing as for my situation. I think of it as something to gain, something to lose.
嗯，
And you're saying these other practitioners are the same way.
是的，yes，
我觉得他们大多数也是，就怕，他们怕就是如果他们脱离这个东西， 之
是
后会有什么？但是 it's all just to scare you. Believe me, like when I was at the mountain too, it's do you know about the contract? That was I still talk about the contract because I was there for the contract.
约书，
就当时就是大家就是那个氛围，完全就是 it was is ridiculous, like it's unbelievable. And we promised to never, access these ordinary things. 就
yes
是现在我每天听的歌，每天看的电影，每天就是我 I don't play games，就是玩的游戏，but like all these things we thought if we you know if we fell into this trap one time, it was over.
go
Isn't that hilarious? It's like
very very 可怕
对，
dangerous。
真的就是回想起来，就是真的就是觉得有点不可思议。那当时就是很可怕，就是怎么说，就是it's still the reality for so many children, and
Yes,
for the adults, it's 就是只不过就是关系到他们的生命、他们的人生、他们的就是生生世世的去向
yes,
right? It's just a little bit. It's the same thing as the children, just for the adults. That's
yes,
why people are not willing to see the truth, right?
yes. So, is there anything you want to tell me?
Tell you? Well, actually, like this entire conversation, I every time I watch one of your videos, I become more interested in who you are. So can I, if it's not too personal, can I ask, you have a son, right?
Yes.
He's around my age or a little bit younger?
26 years old.
He's around my age. So does he know about everything? What is his stance?
He walked along the whole journey with me, in fact, and
Okay.
he gave me a lot of comfort and support. And I exchanged my thoughts with him. And he is now land a job in Dallas, Texas, in a very good company, and he live his own life. And he told me that he will announce he's leaving from Falun Gong maybe in next week
Hmm.
to his mother.
Do we have any? Oh, I see. But he's in the same situation as me, right? To his mother's knowledge, he's still involved,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
That's the same situation as me. And why hasn't he told her he's leaving yet?
Why hasn't he told what?
Told his mom.
Because he is not financially independent.
I see,
That
but he will be.
he is now
Right. Oh,
yes,
so that's why he's telling her now.
yes,
Well, for me, I waited until I was moved out as well, also financially independent, to then tell my mom. But guess what? My mom doesn't believe me. She believes that 不是我自己想，是人家灌输给我的 right? So it's a little bit tricky. Can I ask, does he respect like his mom? What does he think of his her still being affiliated? What does he think?
On the Falun Gong issue, he doesn't share any thought with her mom with his mom.
Does
But
she make him
yes,
does she make him 学法?
she tried to persuade him to regularly 学法, but finally he is determined to tell his mother, I'm out. I'm
Right,
quit.
okay. And
Yes.
that's the thing. I would say the vast majority of young children, either they are in Shenyun or they are completely disassociated.
Yes.
There's actually only a select number of people who are still in that middle where they're both still believing but also not at the mountain. So that's the situation, right?
And I think there is a third way is to fight back,
Hmm.
fight back.
Hmm.
Because they are doing the wrong thing. They hurt a lot of people,
Hmm.
especially they hurt their own children.
Sure.
In the whole scenario, those parents in Falun Gong is a major role to hurt their own children.
Yeah, exactly.
So we need fight back.
Hmm.
We are just not just leave them alone. No, we fight back.
Right. I agree that there is value in doing that. It's a very ironic. Their claim is they're saving people, but they themselves need to be saved.
Yes,
It's very it's kind of like something out of a movie, the plot of a movie. Someone should
yes,
make a movie. It'd be a blockbuster. A story of children who believe they are saving the world, but they're actually being abused.
yes.
It's unbelievable.
So let's let's call it a conversation. And
Yes.
I hope I can contact in the future. We
hmm
can exchange our thoughts, right?
hmm
Yes.
I am definitely open for that dialogue. Um,
Okay.
I think
So
that for now I want to keep, this picture, this name, whatever. Just I can be somewhat anonymous. If that's okay with you, if you find that there's no use publicizing this recording, if I'm not public, then it's up to you. Um, but uh, maybe you can say like a musician, former musician. I don't know. It's up to you. I just
okay,
want, for the sake of um, my family. It's always been my family. It's not myself. I don't really care. Um, if that's okay with you.
thank you. And I will stop recording and I will ask some other questions.
Sure,
If- Okay.
sure, sure.